It is hunting season and the target is General Kim Won Bong's own kid. But why the hell are the Empire's goons hunting their boss's son? Because the poor brat was born with zero mana in a world where magic is everything. For a family this power-hungry, a weak son is a total embarrassment. So his dear old dad ordered his men to just erase the kid from existence. Lieutenant Zhang got the job of finishing him, but the boy couldn't even put up a fight. Zhang just shoved a sword through his gut and tossed him off a cliff. That drop is so high, not even Deadpool is walking away. Late that night, the soldiers went to the bottom to confirm he was dead. After hours of searching, they found him, and the sight left everyone absolutely speechless. This kid got tossed off a cliff the size of Mount Everest with a giant hole in his stomach, but here he was, just sitting there, chilling out. Wait. What? Out of nowhere, he starts glowing with this strange green energy. One soldier totally lost it and charged at him with a blade. But the kid saw it coming, slipped the strike, and landed a punch that left the entire squad in shock. When the others pulled their steel, the boy whipped 3 coins from his pocket and threw them hard enough to pierce 3 skulls instantly. The rest of the squad tried their luck, but the useless kid was absolutely wrecking these elites. The last man standing pulled a gun and took a cheap shot. The kid just dodged the bullet and called the guy slow. He grabbed the lieutenant by the throat with a smirk, finishing off the last enemy without a single scratch. But what happened to this kid? How does a boy with zero magic fall off a cliff and come back like Broly? This is Kim Tae-joo. What the soldiers didn't know was that during his fall, his mind was pulled into another dimension where he met a strange old man. The guy was Tang Gun Ak, the supreme poison demon, an insane master who conquered his world by crushing everyone. When their minds linked, they shared memories and realized they were actually the same person from parallel universes. Except their lives were total opposites. The old guy was the most overpowered legend around, while the kid was a total family failure. Tang passed down all his martial arts secrets and the power of Qi, sending the boy back to his body to become the ultimate powerhouse. When Tae-joo finally woke up, the very first thing he did was grab a poisonous plant and swallow it whole. He meditated and turned that poison into pure energy, focusing on becoming the new poison demon. That is why the soldiers found him sitting there glowing green. After wiping the floor with those soldiers, he had one goal left. He is on a mission to eliminate everyone who wanted him dead. A scout returned to base and told the general the entire troop was wiped out with 0 signs of the boy's body. His father's patience was finally wearing thin. Since people without mana usually die from the toxic air anyway, he was positive the kid would end up dead in a ditch regardless. The general has no clue what is coming. Kill that boy. Just kill him. A few days later, at the magical beast border of Mount Jiri, our hero stood there taking in the massive view. When asked if it was his first time seeing the sights, the young man admitted he was new to the area. The guy with the mustache realized the kid probably did not know much about their city. In 2026, Jiri was just a tiny town until the Empire arrived. Mount Jiri was crawling with monsters that needed killing, so the Emperor turned Jiri into a free city. This gave it huge perks like low taxes on monster goods and absolutely 0 laws. The city quickly filled with powerful awakeners and hunters rushing there to strike it rich. As the man kept rambling on with the history lesson, our hero told him to just get to the point. Finally, the boss warned the kid about all the dangerous criminals flooding their lawless streets. Tae-joo thought the guy was a total chatterbox, but he liked the advice and the vibe. Just a few days ago, Tae-joo barely survived an assassination attempt. After that, he cut all ties following his discharge and went hunting for a place to gain some real power. After doing some thinking, this lawless free city seemed like the perfect spot. Since the Empire does not have much control here, it will be impossible for his family to track him down. Plus, the place was packed with poisonous items that would seriously level up his training. Tae-joo was still new to martial arts, but by some miracle, he had met his legendary counterpart known as the Supreme Poisonous Demon. Our hero found it pretty funny that the woman who tried to kill him actually did him a huge favor. As for now, Tae-joo, working as a mountain porter, our boy decided to low-key stack his cash and power until he could finally ditch the boss and go solo. Then the boss asked him who he thought was the strongest in the whole squad. The old man pointed to young Lee Hyun-yul, a regular ranker who looked way too young. Being a regular awakener, she was technically a level above that lieutenant our hero previously smoked. But honestly, the girl was acting super weird. Out of nowhere, the starfighter just blacked out. She hit the dirt after getting nipped by a mutant mosquito, sending the whole crew into a total panic. As for our guy Tae-joo, he couldn't see why everyone was tripping. Right as he shrugged it off, someone else decided to step up and handle the situation. That redhead with the staff charged her mana and launched a massive fireball at the target. Just like that, boom, a huge explosion rocked the area, finally putting an end to that tiny flying mosquito nightmare. When asked why everyone was losing it, the boss explained that those bugs literally drain a person's mana supply on contact. Some awakeners pass out instantly from one bite. It is total chaos because plenty of high-level parties have been wiped out by a single mosquito. Tapping into his martial artist alter ego, the hero started recalling a specific poison that felt exactly like that mosquito's nasty bite. Seizing the moment, he decided to use a secret poison spirit art to scan the girl and see what was really going on. And what he discovered left him pretty intrigued. One hunter started shaking because this area was supposed to be totally mosquito-free. He begged the team leader to turn back before things got worse, and the leader agreed. But then, the tall grass started rustling. The leader jumped, totally spooked. He screamed at the party to draw their weapons and prepare for a real fight. But it was just a long-tailed rabbit. Basically, a bottom-tier snack that breeds like crazy. Since they make perfect lab rats, the whole team finally took a breath and relaxed. They figured they were just being paranoid over nothing. Too bad they were dead wrong, and this was definitely not a false alarm. Before anyone could even blink, the team leader and the hunter beside him were suddenly and brutally beheaded. Just like that, 2 guys were down. Now the crew was facing a pack of orcs beasts that loved to announce their arrival with bone-chilling roars. Seeing the carnage, the mage decided to draw the monster's attention to give her team a chance to scramble away. The boss looked at Tae-joo, but our hero told him to keep moving. He wasn't going anywhere just yet. The old man tried to tell him that lowly porters like them were useless here, but Tae-joo wasn't listening. He was determined to help out. Before the boss could argue, Tae-joo handed him the young swordswoman who was still totally unconscious. Tae-joo told him to start running, explaining that he was just going to provide a little bit of backup for the mage. With that, the man bolted, praying his friend would make it out alive. Then our hero noticed the monsters were moving in perfect sync. Meanwhile, the mage was spamming her skills in every direction, trying her best to keep those ugly orcs at bay. That is when she spotted an orc charging straight for Tae-joo. She dug her heels in and vowed to stop the beast before it reached him. One fireball later, and that orc was crispy toast. Tae-joo pinched his nose, gagging at the smell of burnt orc flesh. Then he spotted something that actually made him freeze. Tae-joo yelled for her to duck. Before she could react, a jagged blade was already swinging toward the back of her neck. Far away in the celestial realm, by a peaceful, glowing lake, the supreme poison demon was deep in thought. He had ascended a month ago, thinking about how he would still be rotting in his old world if it weren't for our hero. Thanks to their mental link, the old man had absorbed all the weird and useful knowledge from planet Earth. That info helped him reach total enlightenment, finally hitting that higher plane of existence he had been chasing his whole life. Still, he realized he had messed up big time. Turns out this fancy celestial realm was basically just a high-end mental hospital. It was wild to see the place packed with all sorts of legendary weirdos and absolute lunatics. In the eyes of the poison demon, the famous sect founders and grandmasters were just a bunch of rude jerks. Seeing how they all lacked basic respect, the old man felt like a moron for wasting his life trying to get here. Even so, he had to admit that sharing a soul with his younger self was actually a pretty fun ride. The demon wondered how his successor was holding up. They were technically the same person, but one was a feared master while the other was a total reject. That is why the old man hoped his god-tier skills could help the kid turn his pathetic life around. To beat the top dogs in this world, Tae-joo had to hit the 7th star of his lethal poison arts. The old guy started dreaming about meeting his younger self again, imagining all the crazy secrets he could finally teach the kid. But while he was lost in his head, some random object came flying right at his face. It was the sword immortal, trash-talking the poison demon for mocking real sword skills when he just tosses daggers like a coward. So, the guy who ditched Zen for violence charged at the other old dude, knives out and ready to scrap. Back on Earth, while orcs were getting fried, the girl saw something terrifying, but she was way too slow to dodge the blade. Watching her fail was painful, so our hero had to step in. He decided it was time to take over the show. First, he knocked her out cold. Then, Tae-joo hit the gas and launched himself into the fray. He broke out his new area of effect move. Suddenly, a storm of coins flooded the field as he unleashed his dagger burst. Those massive orcs didn't stand a chance against the rain of fast, deadly coins. The coins bounced off their skulls like hail. Just like that, the martial artist stuck the landing on the solid ground. He was actually pretty shocked that it only took one single hit to drop a full-grown orc like a fly. Tae-joo stared at the mage he accidentally knocked out, wondering what the heck he was supposed to do with her. Besides, he couldn't let word get out about some unmarked guy slaughtering orcs. That would get his dad and other creeps watching him. Because of that, he knew he had to get the hell out of there, fast. Tae-joo thought about how that meeting with the old guy flipped his world. Usually, a mana reject wouldn't have these kinds of problems. Our hero made sure to leave absolutely no evidence of his existence behind. Cleaning up after throwing stuff is a total drag. You have to hunt down every weapon, and ammo isn't cheap these days. While the hero dreamed about getting a retrieval skill at the 7th star to save him the constant hassle, he noticed a coin was missing and started searching. Finally, he spotted the metal piece lodged deep inside a tree trunk. But as he reached for it, a bug zipped past. Tae-joo moved like lightning, snatching the mosquito and trapping it in his palm. Since this definitely wasn't the spot where mutant 3-striped mosquitoes usually spawned, he figured this was the same pest that bit the Pro Awakener. Tae-joo carefully laid the bug out on his open hand. This thing's poison temporarily wrecks your internal energy and completely shorts out the mana flow inside any Awakener it bites. Our guy immediately realized it was just like the energy-scattering poisons used back in Murim. But on Earth, people need protective gear because nobody has the antidote yet. Unlike in Murim, this stuff is actually super dangerous. If he could crack the chemical code of the venom, he could whip up a cure using all those secret tips from the master. Of course, that meant he would have to hunt for local herbs that matched the ones from the old master's ancient world. Tae-joo then did the only logical thing possible. He just popped the bug into his mouth and ate it. The kid swallowed the mosquito without even blinking. One bite of his new snack confirmed the two poisons were exactly the same, which meant if he found the right ingredients, he could mass-produce a cure and get absolutely filthy rich. With that plan in mind, our hero decided to run some experiments once he got back home. Then, a weird noise caught his ear. Tae-joo froze when he saw an elite orc staring him down that shouldn't be in this zone. And judging by the look in its eyes, this monster was hungry for some human blood. While the beast roared about wiping out humanity, our hero stood there stunned by its massive size and the fact it could talk. Think of elite monsters as the high-level awakeners of the whole magical beast kingdom. To make matters worse, no orc, especially an elite, belonged here. That meant something seriously messed up was going down on that mountain. The orc swung its weapon with a roar. Tae-joo dived out of the way just as the strike shattered the ground. The old guy was blown away by that power, saying it was easily on par with an expert rank monster's strength. There was a huge chance his coins wouldn't even leave a scratch on that monster's thick, leathery skin. Still, he had to try something. Tae-joo immediately fired off his flying dagger art, Swift Strike. He launched 3 coins at blistering speeds toward the beast. They slammed into the target but stopped dead in their tracks upon impact. Honestly, it wasn't a shock. His strongest hidden weapon attack didn't do a single thing to hurt the monster. Since his area of effect move would just spread out the force way too much, he started thinking the Bloodseal Poison Palm was his only shot. Right then, the creature let out another deafening roar. Right then, Tae-joo knew he was choking. He was positive his old self would be totally disgusted seeing him second-guess himself right when the fight started. It was straight-up embarrassing for someone aiming to be a legend. Tae-joo caught himself getting way too cocky after wiping out that orc pack like it was absolutely nothing. It didn't matter how scary the wall in front of him looked. He was going to keep swinging until it crumbled. This was the path of the supreme poison demon, after all. He threw a poison palm, and that elite monster moved to block it. Then, boom, that massive steel axe slammed right into our guy's bare hand. Talk about a high-stakes standoff for our hero. Tae-joo redlined his power, and just like that, everything went up in a massive, earth-shaking explosion. When the dust settled, the axe was trashed, but only one fighter was left shaking on his knees. Tae-joo hadn't even scratched the orc yet. Seeing that, he doubled down, ready to bash it until it dropped. Suddenly, a blade flashed out. That elite orc got shredded by a million cuts in a blink. Our hero was left totally confused. Even the monster had no clue what just hit it. As it shattered, Tae-joo knew he would have bolted if that elite hadn't stepped in. Now, he had to cook up some story for his mysterious savior. Right then, someone asked Tae-joo point-blank if he was the one who killed the orc. The guy sneered that since Tae-joo lacked a mark, he was just a weak non-awakener who couldn't possibly win. Tae-joo froze under those icy eyes. Lee Yoon-song, the vigilante captain and boss of the Nogadan Guild, was standing there demanding the truth. This was get real time. Tae-joo knew that kind of ego and power meant big trouble. He had to pick his words very, very carefully. Just as he opened his mouth, his own boss showed up to join the party. But the older guy didn't care about him. He was only stressed about the gear, which the porter said was safe. When he mentioned he'd been saved by a stranger, the bearded guy turned around to see who it was. The boss recognized Lee Yun-seong immediately. The captain was already calling in his squad for a massive cleanup. This free city followed a committee instead of the emperor, and the vigilante captain was a major player with a vote. He also ran the Nogadan Guild, handled security, and was a top-tier master rank awakener himself. The boss started yapping about how all porters pay his guild for safety, but the captain told him to zip it. Beard Guy apologized for talking too much and nudged his partner to thank their savior, so he did it fast. Lee Yoon-seong grilled the kid, asking if a lowly porter like him really had zero part in that orc slaughter. Tae-joo. He nodded and lied, saying he was just stuck with the elite after the mage who killed the pack passed out from mana drain. With that said, the captain's crew told him they had to bounce, since they had the survivors and the cleanup team was coming. Lee decided to move out, but he had one last thing to say. He warned the new kid never to cross him or start trouble in his town. He took off laughing like a total freak, promising our guy he wouldn't be this nice the next time they met. Once the committee member cleared out, the old boss finally let out a huge breath of relief. He warned his partner to never annoy that man, or his life in this city would turn into a nightmare. Tae-joo tried to say the guy seemed okay, but learned he was actually a dirty cop who loved bribes and ignored crimes. Turns out, all those patrols were just a front for his shady business. If things weren't so desperate, the boss never would have asked for his help after finding him in the woods. Since masters are basically nukes on legs, the porter was told to stay away and get that luggage down the mountain. Tae-joo knew he'd have been in a serious jam if that vigilante captain hadn't shown up when he did. He realized he'd wasted a whole month after the soul merge, getting way too high on his own supply after taking out some weak-tier awakeners. Right now, Tae-joo wouldn't even be able to face his old self. From that day forward, he decided to lock in and swore an oath to get insanely powerful. Gory City had some decent roads and buildings, but it was missing one thing: hospitals. No legit doctor would ever set foot in this death trap. Most of the medics here were just shady quacks hiding out from the law. It was pretty sketchy. Because of that, pharmacies and drugstores were popping up on every single corner of the city. Pharmacists ended up with the power to write scripts and sell meds approved by the committee or the government. Some of them even got filthy rich, since they were way more reliable than any of those back-alley hospitals. So my man decided to finally sell his cure for those mutant three-striped mosquitoes. The past month was a total grind, working as a porter by day and hunting herbs in his spare time. By night, he was training martial arts. He even had to hit rank 3 just to handle the insane chemistry needed for the antidote. Talk about a brutal schedule. But that hustle gave him serious power. Now, he wasn't someone you could just push around anymore. If this goes right, Tae-joo Kim is about to get rich. He walked into the shop and waited. A clerk at the box drugstore welcomed him, offering to show him all the high-end stuff they had. Our hero told her he was only there for the owner. That definitely threw her for a loop. Tae-joo wasn't buying, he was selling. The guy in the back room caught wind of the conversation and took a long, deep breath. Baek Hong-pyo, an orphanage director and the CEO of this pharmacy, finally stepped out to introduce himself. Tae-joo didn't waste time, explaining he was there to sell some of his own special homemade medicine. The old guy was over it. He dealt with random scammers knocking on his door almost every single day. He shut down the offer fast, telling the new guy in town to go find a real job at the labor market if he wanted some cash. But once Tae-joo mentioned a mosquito antidote, the owner actually stopped and started listening with real interest. He thought his ears were playing tricks. Our guy confirmed it a cure for the mutant three-striped mosquito. Now he had Hong-pyo's attention. He explained it was an oral drug you could take ahead of time. When the kid said the effects lasted 10 hours, the old man totally lost it. That was just too much. It annoyed him that this kid wasn't even trying to make his scam sound halfway believable. It felt like an insult. The chemist handed over 2 more bottles. He dropped his card and told them to call after testing the goods. The deadline was set for midnight. Tae-joo walked out, warning them he'd just sell the product to someone else if they didn't hit him up. Everyone in the shop was stunned. They honestly thought the guy had just completely lost his mind. Right then, the customer grabbed one of the bottles curiously. That was Park Jin-soo, a raid team leader and shop regular who loved testing new gear. He asked if this was for real. Hong-pyo just looked at him, totally confused. He said he couldn't know for sure yet. Everything would be clear once they actually put the drug to use. Hong-pyo didn't expect much. Not even the top companies in the empire could crack the code for this cure. But that seller was so confident it was hard to ignore. The clerk told the guy to put it down, but he insisted on a test. The old owner turned, horrified. He yelled at the regular for drinking a shady, untested drug. But after a swig, Jin-soo just shrugged and said the bottle was nothing but plain old water. What a letdown. The owner was stunned. Since this regular knew his potions, the owner asked if he felt any kind of kick from the stuff he just drank. Jin-soo just sighed, repeating that he didn't feel a thing. To him, it was clearly just a bottle of water. He called our hero a total scammer and told the old man to just toss the rest of the bottles. Still, Hong-pyo had a gut feeling that this protagonist wasn't just some common, everyday street scammer. The regular finished his shopping. He and his crew were going out to hunt some frogs, and that little drug test had already made him late to the party. Even though the haul was expensive, the guy just pulled out a roll and paid in full with cash. Shopping done, the regular said his goodbyes to the old shop owner. Hong-pyo told them to stay safe, thinking Tae-joo was a fraud since nobody could cure mosquito venom. But later that day, a brutal fight broke out in the wild. White beasts were causing total chaos. Suddenly, the team had to activate their shield reinforcements. Jin-soo barely managed to block the attack from the deadly blade-toothed martens. Those things weren't even supposed to be in this area. His ally gripped her blade and went straight for the kill. She yelled at the leader to get moving now that they actually had a clear path to escape. The warrior admitted she had been bitten by a mosquito. Paralysis was going to hit her any second. Her ally told her to hang on until he finished off the last beast. But as he looked up, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Mutant mosquitoes were everywhere. If Jin-soo took one more hit, the venom would paralyze him right then and there. If he went down, the whole team would be left completely at the mercy of the wild. He started panicking that he was actually poisoned as his shield flickered out. He was wondering where he messed up because he took total precautions against these bugs. The whole squad got jumped by blade-toothed martens appearing out of nowhere in mutant frog territory. That surprise attack instantly shredded the whole team's bug suits. The leader started blaming himself because his own panic and total carelessness had caused the hit. At first, The party members bitten by the bugs decided to retreat right away. But for some reason, those mammals blocked their exit, leaving them no choice but to fight. Jinso just needed a tiny bit more juice to kill the last marten and survive. Right then, the swordsman yelled out about an incoming attack. Only then did the leader notice something totally horrifying. That monster had landed one massive hit. Its blade managed to pierce right through his shield, and just like that, the barrier shattered. But for some reason, even with his skill broken, Jinso did not lose any strength or mana. That is when he realized what was up. That antidote he swallowed back at the shop was actually legit, not a scam. Knowing this, he dove back into the fight and gripped his sword. The leader started thinking that if this antidote worked, victory was actually back on the table. Later that night, someone rushed into the old man's drugstore. Jinso ran to the owner, asked the price of the mosquito antidote, and demanded to buy out the entire stock. A little while later, at the Free City Market, one blade tooth marten, which was supposedly incredibly good for stamina, was selling for 5 million won. Nearby, someone else was hawking custom crustacean magical beast armor for 50 million won. The kid, who grew up in the border city Puju, had never stepped foot in such a massive market and found it pretty wild. Tae-joo definitely made the right call taking a day off. To whip up that mosquito antidote, he needed to hit the 3rd star. The medicine required crazy, precise control over internal energy to pull what he needed from those medicinal and poisonous herbs. But because our hero overworked himself, his poison essence overloaded, so he needed some time to digest all that poison. Anyway, he remembered a meeting at a coffee shop where Hong Pyo demanded a contract to buy every single bottle of that antidote. By the looks of it, that homemade medicine was actually legit. The old owner confirmed it, explaining how it would change mountain hunting forever, before apologizing for calling our hero a crazy quack. Hong Pyo brushed the apology aside and asked how many bottles the kid had actually made. After hearing there were 60,000 in stock, the old man asked what happens once they all sell out. So Tae-joo just told him he would make some more. He got a contract where the official cost was 10,000 won, so they could sell them for 50,000 won including the overhead. Since making them only cost 100 won each, Tae-joo was hyped, noting that the whole stock would sell for 3 billion won. When he learned the tax was only 10%, he was loving this lawless city even more. Tae-joo decided to pivot the deal and sell exclusively to Bake Drugstore with a 30% discount for a year. But the old man said that was too much. So the hero pointed out that the man ran an orphanage. He added how, according to everyone, the old owner was like a father to every orphan in the city since the drugstore funded the home. Tae-joo said this was his way of helping in exchange for a workshop to cook up the cure. Hong Pyo was touched by the kindness and promised he had the perfect spot. With that said, the deal was finally sealed. After locking down the contract and a massive paycheck, our hero hit the famous city market to find some gear. He started scouring every corner in search of anything halfway decent to wear. Then someone asked if he wanted a weapon. When asked if he was talking to him, the guy said yeah, claiming his shop was the best in town. This huge jacked bald guy doing a JoJo pose even offered a special discount because our hero was so handsome. Tae-joo was totally creeped out and said he did not want to buy anything. Grabbing him by the shoulder, the blacksmith insisted the fresh meat come visit his lonely workshop. The blacksmith looked totally average and seemed like a passable craftsman at best. But he was easily manhandling someone who hit the 3rd star of martial arts. He might actually be a hidden master. Later on in the shop, after checking out the shields, swords, hammers, and daggers, the hero was asked what he thought of the collection. Seeing how impressed he was, the blacksmith bragged again that he was the absolute best in the city. Right then, the poison master decided it was time to unleash his lethal skills. The blacksmith didn't lie. He looked like a wreck, but man, his gear was straight fire and totally flawless. Looking at the quality, he immediately ordered 100 of those custom blades sketched out on the paper. Checking out the tiny flying daggers, the smith was curious about the size and asked if they were for his own collection. Baldy said if he wanted them to actually hurt, they needed mana steel. Tae-joo just wanted to know if the guy could handle the job. The dude said yeah, but it would take a minute since he was fresh out of raw materials. After crunching numbers and giving a discount for being a good-looking guy, the smith asked for 250 million won with a 10% deposit. That insane price for disposable weapons didn't faze our hero, so he just paid the whole thing up front. So, with the deal closed, the blacksmith said he would send over a prototype as soon as it was ready before saying his goodbyes. With the weapons sorted, it was time for our guy to track down some serious armor. Since he needed plenty of pockets for all his hidden blades, he figured a classic master robe was the way to go. But then he pictured it and realized he would look like a total dork, so he opted for some modern street style. While he was debating his look, a girl with fox ears suddenly walked up and handed him a flyer. Tae-joo was definitely intrigued. She said Flame Boutique just dropped their new line and they had some sick coats on display right now. Tae-joo realized instantly that a leather coat would be way cooler than some old-school long robe. Meanwhile, across town, as these two were wandering the streets, the massive castle finally came into view. The long-haired girl thought it was pretty stupid to have a giant wall around a city in this day and age. Her short-haired friend agreed, saying this was a private spot for VIPs that you could only get to by boat. The girl talking trash about the local rich people was none other than Jo Yoonhee. She was the big heir of the Baekdu group and a cadet at the military academy. Her friend found her super intimidating and asked why she traveled all this way just to track down some rare fox leather coat. Turns out, the coat was made from rare Siberian illusion fox fur, which had crazy defense and worked for both winter and summer seasons. Hearing that, her orange-haired buddy agreed that the coat was worth burning a whole day off for. Even though her grandpa, the big chairman, let her use his exclusive black card, Yoonhee said no thanks, wanting to spend her own cash instead. Right then, the train pulled into Guri Market Station. Everyone hopped off the train. The academy cadet told Secretary Kim to stop wasting time so they could head straight for the boutique. Back with our hero, he was definitely leaning toward that leather coat vibes over some dusty old robe. A bit later, Tae-joo walked into the boutique and mentioned the flyer he got on the street. The secretary started getting suspicious, thinking this random guy was trying to snag the same coat. Just then, the shop owner welcomed him to Flame Boutique, only to realize that the guy looked familiar. Tae-joo had no clue who she was, but she knew him instantly as a low-level porter. She explained they were in the same dungeon party a month back during that nasty orc attack. Once he finally remembered the mage, our protagonist asked her what she was even doing here. She said the shop was her real job and being a mage was just a side hustle for extra cash, then admitted she had been searching for him. Hearing that, Tae-joo wanted to bolt. He had let her take all the credit for the orc kills just to keep a low profile. Tae-joo just wasn't ready to deal with the truth once the girl finally woke up. He tried to dodge her to avoid any awkward questions, but just as he turned to leave, he was stopped. The mage just wanted the truth. Was this humble porter actually the guy who saved her life? When he asked if she just blacked out from mana drain, she totally played along since her hero clearly had secrets to keep. Tae-joo tried to deny it, but the girl started to tremble. She thanked him from the bottom of her heart. Because of him, she actually recovered the bodies of her team leader and boyfriend. As she burst into tears, our hero had absolutely no clue how to handle all that emotion. He definitely saved her life, but since he only did it to test his own powers, he felt like a total fraud. He didn't think he deserved her thanks. Right then, the secretary started screaming at the shop owner for keeping her lady waiting so long. The mage blurted out an apology. Then, bam, she hit her knees. Out of nowhere, the mage told the lady the coat was off the table. Tae-joo stood there, looking completely and utterly lost. The secretary lost her cool and started blowing up at her, ranting about how they traveled forever and jumped through hoops just to get rejected at the finish line during the final sale. The mage apologized again, saying she really wanted to sell her best item, but she just found a much better way to use it. She promised to pay them back for the trouble, but the cadet was already over this whole drama. She finally shut the secretary up. The fancy lady just shrugged and decided it was time to bounce. While the secretary kept whining about the hassle, the VIP lady made it clear that she really didn't care. Once they cleared out, Tae-joo started stressing that he might have just kicked a major hornet's nest for nothing. The mage insisted the apology was on her, So Tae-joo straight up asked why she was holding onto that coat. Hearing that, she laughed and said people probably tell him he is absolute trash at reading the room. He still didn't get the hint. The mage was literally trying to gift him the pricey coat. Tae-joo was just blanking out. She just wanted to pay him back for saving her skin by handing over that silver fox leather coat. Our hero shut it down fast, claiming he was being selfish back then and saving her wasn't even his goal. But the lady didn't give a damn about his motives. At the end of the day, he still saved her life. She told him if he wanted to pay her back, he should go save others, so nobody else dies for nothing, like her boyfriend did. It was actually the very first time someone had shown our hero that much genuine gratitude. He spent his whole life surrounded by dirtbags, so this whole situation was giving him some seriously strange, fuzzy feelings. Tae-joo didn't hate the vibe though, so he finally sucked it up and accepted the gift with a real thank you. The mage was stoked and ran to grab his measurements. Meanwhile, over in the Lost Soul realm, the old man was dying of boredom. The legendary sword immortal, Dongbin Sonin, had zero to do in this never-ending spiritual retirement home. To him, everyone looked and acted like carbon copies. Only one dude actually stood out from the boring crowd. Even though he was from Muram too, the Supreme Poison Demon was a total rebel with a new haircut and custom fits from another world. Either the madness of this place finally broke him, or he was just a straight-up psycho from the start. The Sword Immortal was so lonely and bored he actually asked the guy to teach him how to craft those sick threads. He finally made up his mind. To convince the Poison Demon, he offered a legendary gift, a special fruit known as the Heavenly Peach of this world. A bit later, back at the old man's orphanage, deep in the basement, something sketchy was going down behind a locked door. After grinding for hours, Tae-joo finally saw some major results. Right then, his phone buzzed. It was the old man, who just found out that the batch of antidote was officially ready for prime time. Hong Pyo was totally hyped, since his shelves were almost bare, which caught our hero completely off guard. Once word got out about the new mosquito repellent, the shop was swarmed by a literal army of adventurers. To make it even crazier, some folks, like the original tester, were buying up the whole stock in bulk. Tae-joo told the boss to announce more stock was coming, but limited everyone to 2 bottles max. The old man agreed, though he was worried about cheap knockoff drugs hitting the streets soon. But our hero didn't care at all. He figured if people copied them, they would just drop a new product. He knew nobody could replicate that cure without the poison spirit art anyway. As the CEO hung up, promising to cap sales while they waited on supply, Tae-joo put in a request for a packaging machine. He started whining about how packing the product was taking way longer than actually making it, which is why he was stuck in the lab for 7 days, but he got promised a machine soon. Meanwhile, outside, 2 orphans were arguing over whether the guy inside was a ghost or just some bum they needed to kick out. The boy promised the girl that there were definitely no ghosts lurking in their secret hideout, saying it was just some homeless dude they needed to evict. Then, a sudden noise totally spooked them. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and a creepy figure stepped out of the smoke. The second the shady guy opened his mouth, the kids nearly died of fright. And just like that, they bolted for their lives to get away from the stinky ghost man. Tae-joo, after spending forever packing those bottles, thought those kids were being way too disrespectful with all the name-calling. Our boy really thought he did not stink that bad. Never mind, he had not touched a shower in 7 whole days. He had a meeting with his old boss because some worker went AWOL. If he wasted time washing up, he was going to be super late. Suddenly, someone walks up to him. Looks like a lady is heading his way right now. Her dad told her our hero signed a contract to cook up some kind of antidote. Real scientific stuff, right? He confirms he is Kim Tae-joo and then asks this random woman who the heck she actually is. Turns out she is Baek Seung from the orphanage. She was actually there to check on some ghost the local kids were freaking out about. Seung also had a special delivery for him. Looking at the label, Tae-joo realizes it is the prototype from the blacksmith. He thanks her, and she basically tells him he better stay on her father's good side. And as she headed out, Seung begs him to wash his stinky self before leaving the orphanage and takes off. But he is too hyped. He checks the flying dagger prototype before hitting the shower. When he opens the package, he finds a note inside. The blacksmith left a sassy note asking for feedback if the prototype needed any more work. It is safe to say our hero was not feeling the vibe, so he just shredded the note. A relieved Tae-joo checks out one of the blades. He is impressed. It is both super sharp and sturdy. The balance is perfect and the grip feels great. Since the weapons are so awesome, the young man starts getting hyped about the coat too. He remembered being offered that expensive item for $0. But since he has some cash now, he decides to be a stand-up guy and pay for it. Then he remembers he is late and bolts for the shower. Later that day, up on the mountain in the magical beast border zone, our main man finally catches up with the party and greets his old boss. The guy welcomes him with open arms. Tae-joo says sorry for the delay, but the boss says they only just arrived themselves. He thanks Tae-joo for coming on short notice. Our hero says he is just returning a favor for his kindness, but then some total jerk starts running his mouth. This guy is ticked off that a lowly porter is holding up the hunt. He demands an apology right now. The arrogant rookie is a guy named Jong Won-jun. He is on the raid team and reminds them both that this is definitely not a social club. Tae-joo tells the dude to watch his tone and says he has zero reasons to say sorry. Getting backtalk from an unranked guy really ticks the swordsman off. He thinks a porter should just shut up and submit already. Tae-joo low-key wants to end this annoyance right here. Now he finally gets why the guy he is replacing ran away so fast. Right at that moment, he was told the penalty for breaking his contract was going to be super high. He is told to keep his cool while the insults keep flying. Since he is used to being disrespected, Tae-joo just plays along and finally offers an apology. Right then, the other party members tell the swordsman to quit wasting everyone's time. They notice he was actually about to slice the porter. While the boss tries to apologize to our hero, the team leader just orders everyone to move out. Tae-joo thinks it is sketchy that they are trying a 15-person raid with only a party of 7 people. He warns the squad that even though cutting party members is trendy now because of the antidote, they definitely need more people for this. The swordsman snaps at the porter for having the nerve to talk back, but Tianhua makes it clear that if things start getting dangerous, he is not helping with the raid. Right then, a party member says he is tired of listening to someone who is dead meat. This really gets our hero's attention. Wonjun wants to take the arrogant guy out right now. The team leader, Kwon Dong-suk, reminds them they need the porters and threatens to take Tae-joo out if he keeps running his mouth. Wonjun says the porters in the Free City must have a really easy life. He has never seen a porter cocky enough to question their party size. The leader jokes the guy might run away if they keep it up. So the swordsman says he will just end him right then and there. Tae-joo is over it. He wonders if he should just slaughter these lowlifes instead of taking their insults, since he is actually strong enough now. Anyway, the party leader tells everyone to knock back their antidote before they head out on their way. The boss then says sorry to our hero for dragging him into all this drama. Tae-joo says it is cool, then asks if they are really going to be okay with only 7 people. Today, we are hitting the Bladetooth Martin zone. Thanks to the antidote, teams are smaller and those annoying bug suits are finally history. The boss said having 2 rookies along was a relief. Then he tossed a bottle of the antidote over to our hero. Tae-joo took his own creation with a smirk, thinking about how many lives this little juice had saved already. He remembered the mage telling him the only way to settle his debt was to keep people from kicking the bucket for nothing. Sure, his new powers were saving folks from those mutant mosquitoes, but they were also messing with his head in a major way. Twice now, Tae-joo didn't even flinch at the thought of wiping out his own party members. That is cold. The reason? He has got a direct link to the Supreme Poison Demon himself. That guy does not do mercy. He lives to hunt down anyone who crosses him. Since they are sharing a soul, our hero's heart is getting pretty toxic too. Honestly, he is fine with it. Without that edge, he would be way too weak to survive on this version of Earth. Tae-joo told the boss to stick close, but the guy started whining about how they are safer with the official awakeners. He insisted it was safer with the pros, but our hero wasn't joking. He could feel something nasty and dark lurking deep within those trees. It was close. Some beast was already sharpening its claws, getting ready to pounce on them. Back in Murim, while the Juge clan was going up in flames, the mastermind finally showed up. An old man lay there, beaten and bloody. Patriarch Jujchon screamed at Tang Gun Ak, cursing him for bringing all this hell down on their front door. Right then, the poison demon just started laughing in the face of the lightning demon. He called out the old geezer, revealing that his whole clan had been secretly playing footsie with the demonic cult this whole time. The patriarch yelled that it was a total frame job. I mean, they were one of the 5 great clans, right? But the Blade Master just said all demonic followers are dirty liars. Then he tossed something heavy at the man's feet. The old man froze in pure horror. His own son's head was rolling right across the dirt. The poison demon said that is what happens when you sacrifice innocent people just to cook up some demonic blood pills. No mercy. He dared him to call it a setup now. See, the poison demon hates people like the lightning demon cowards who prey on the weak for their own gain. Suddenly, the old man started begging, offering up dirt on the heavenly demon if he could just keep his life. Too late for that. The kid could not forget the mountain of bodies left behind by the lightning demon's crimes. It was time for payback. Right then and there, a lethal rain of poisonous blades tore the old man to shreds. Our hero's Muram double really wanted to give the heavenly demon the exact same treatment, just a matter of time. Back on Earth in the present day, the party was loving how easy the marten hunt became without those bugs buzzing around. The swordsman was busy drooling over all the sweet loot they were scoring. He mocked the scaredy cat for doubting them, telling him he would be stuck as a lowly porter forever. Tae-joo was barely holding back his anger. These clowns only survived because of the antidote he made for them. Right about now, he was seriously considering finishing them off himself. But he decided these losers weren't even worth wasting his brand new throwing knives on. Not today, anyway. Tae-joo knew they would be toast without his meds, but he really doubted these guys could handle the real nightmare coming their way next. They weren't ready. Once again, our hero warned the boss that trouble was coming and told him to stay glued to his side. The guy was just confused, though. Tae-joo explained they were about to face this mountain's most famous challenge, a full-on beast attack. When the boss finally saw the thing, he started shaking like a leaf. A red-furred wolf appeared, and everyone was terrified. Tae-joo told the boss to chill out and just hold his backpack. The guy was totally confused but did what he was told. Usually, you would need a high-level ranker just to stand a chance against a wolf like this one. But that is not even the worst part. These things usually hunt in packs of 10. Good luck with that. Wonjun panicked when a second wolf jumped out. He started swinging his sword wildly, just hoping he would hit something and stay alive. The wolf just danced around the blade like it was nothing. Freaked out, the swordsman turned to the team leader for some orders. Too bad for him, because that team leader was already halfway down the trail, running for his life. The girl with him was screaming in a panic, but that jerk just told her they were sticking to their usual exit strategy. Use the porters as wolf bait so they can make a clean getaway. Talk about a dirty move, right? The old boss started losing it and begged Tae-joo to do anything. Lucky for him, our hero was more than happy to step up. He let his dagger fly instantly, using his special move, the flying dagger art, single flash. Just like that, the dagger zips by at high speed, grazing the swordsman's skull and the team leader's face. In the end, it finally buries itself deep into a rock. Suddenly, screams of pure agony echo through the woods. The boss is absolutely horrified by the carnage he just witnessed. Tae-joo then calls out the first guy for ditching his crew, and the second for trying to sacrifice the weak just to save his own skin. Our hero hates nothing more than cowards who would toss the weak aside just to look out for number one. Both the swordsman and the leader are reeling in pain since they both lost an ear. That is when Wonjun notices something totally insane. One of those wolves was already stone cold dead. The shaking boss asks our guy how he killed that monster in one hit. Right then, the other red wolf decides it is time to avenge its fallen mate. But the martial artist is not playing around. Furious, he threatens to end the beast right there if it even thinks about moving. Tae-joo turns to the squad and asks if this kind of mess is normal for them. He wants to know if they always ditch the weakest link whenever things get a little bit too dangerous. Wonjun screams that it is totally normal for nobodies to die for the sake of the Awakeners. Tae-joo totally saw that coming. So, he decides to give the party a taste of their own medicine. Just like that, he vanishes and relocates to a safe spot. Tae-joo orders them to fight, leaving those one-eared guys stunned. Since he already took out the first wolf, he wants the squad to handle the second one themselves. The leader claims this is pure nonsense and shouts that Tae-joo will regret making the Awakeners angry. He starts yelling at his terrified teammate, who promises our hero a massive reward if he just helps them out. And just like that, another knife comes flying his way. Tae-joo figures the tall guy does not need ears since he clearly cannot understand words. Our hero reminds them that his job is carrying gear while they do the real fighting. He even starts clowning them, since they were way more confident when fighting those Martin guys. And just like that, he orders them to fight. Tae-joo is not joking around one bit. Everyone is shocked, especially the swordsman, who swears they are not going to listen to his crazy demands. But Tae-joo warns that they cannot afford to say no with a red wolf right there. With that, the swordsman tells his team to hold the line, and just like that, he gets slapped right in the face. That monster has enough power in its paw to knock his head clean off his shoulders. Right then, the leader vows to kill the porter, but while cursing his target, he fails to notice the wolf standing right next to him. And just like that, the wolf bites the top half of the team leader right off. As the last two ladies try to bolt, the creature immediately hunts down and takes care of one. So, with only one person left, the merciless beast focuses on its final prey. And just like that, it snaps its powerful jaws. It finishes off the last team member. Then, the beast turns its gaze, because there is one more snack left on the ground. The boss is starting to sweat, because that monster is looking at him like he is a snack. Tae-joo is super annoyed, since he would have let the beast live if it had just run away. After killing those nobodies, the wolf seems to have gotten cocky, even though it saw the massive power gap between it and our hero. Now, only one option remains. Tae-joo decides to end it. With that, he channels every bit of his hidden power. And just like that, he unleashes the blood seal poison palm right on the creature. This causes a massive shockwave that reaches the sky. The boss is speechless, never expecting an unawakened guy to be this strong. Right then, he realizes that Tae-joo was the one who actually wiped out all those orcs, and that he was just hiding his power by giving all the credit to the mage. Now the boss wonders what Tae-joo will do to him since he saw everything. So, he falls to his knees and begs for his life. Tae-joo tells the boss he has no plans to hurt him. This comes as a massive relief. When asked if he is hurt, the guy says he is totally fine. Then Tae-joo decides to ask him for a favor. One scary look makes everything clear. The shivering porter knows he better keep his mouth shut about what he just saw. And with that, the two of them decide it is time to get off the mountain. As for the bodies, they are left to rot in the sun. Tae-joo remembers his fight with the lieutenant, thinking about how beasts will scavenge the corpses while his own conscience is clear. In fact, neither he nor his master can stand people who sacrifice the weak for themselves. He cannot help but compare these losers to the trash in the Jugi clan. Meanwhile, at the Uj pharmacy headquarters in the castle of Guri, a meeting went down in the boardroom. These dudes were losing it because sales tanked by 50%. They started pointing fingers at Tae-joo and Hong Pyo. Everyone was flocking to Baked Drugstore for that mosquito cure. The fat guy was screaming that they had played nice for way too long, and they should have crushed that tiny rival ages ago. Meet Oh-ban Bak, the big boss over at Saiji Pyong. He reminded them that despite owning most shops, Bake was the only one that refused to bend the knee. President Lee blamed the committee for babying Hongpyo just because he runs some orphanage. Nam Bak told his chubby friend to find a real fix instead of whining, which almost started a fistfight. Just then, Jo Hun Seok from Uj Pharmacy stepped in to chill out the two bickering old men. He said they needed to get real and stop lying, admitting his own crew had totally failed. Turns out, every major player had failed to rip off the cure our main guy created. Still, Nam Bok was positive his company could whip up an antidote if they had more time. His partner snapped that he didn't care about time and needed a fix now to keep them from going broke. But the guy from Uj basically said their hands were tied for the moment. They were stressed about the committee but decided to play dirty anyway. The big guy asked about the background check. Time to spill the beans. The creator was a 29-year-old veteran and the oldest son of Brigadier General Kim from Paju. Nam Bok hated that news. It meant the protagonist was untouchable because his old man was a high-level master. But Hun Sok said that was just the beginning. Word is, Tae-joo was a mana reject who joined the army after being booted from home by his stepmother, who actually wanted him dead. The fat guy guessed the kid just ran away. Hun Suk nodded and planned to meet Tae-joo to offer him a way better deal than what Baek offered. And if the kid said no, they would just get violent. Later that day at the Imperial Army base on Mount Jiri, someone knocked on the commander's office door. The boss wanted his intel now. The officer said the info came from the Free City's local committee. After checking out our hero's file, the commander realized he was the general's magicless son. The military's last contract deal had been shut down by the city. But since the maker was a soldier, they still had a shot. With that antidote, the army could wipe out the monsters before the next big beast wave hits. Master rank Lieutenant General O thought this would be cake since they were family, so he called for the father. Next day, back at home, inside the office, the general finally hung up the phone and took a long breath. His wife couldn't believe Tae-joo became a big deal when he was too weak to even finish college. She scrambled to book tickets to the Free City, claiming the kid was rich and probably about to get scammed, but he told her to stay away. The dad wanted nothing to do with the disowned black sheep. His angry wife said they were still family. She tried to act moral, but he basically called her out for trying to have the kid killed. She started shaking, but she told herself there was no proof. She yelled at him to get that antidote to help his military promotion. She claimed their land was failing and they needed cash for the other two sons' expensive college tuition. So, General Kim told her to go see the stepson herself. He made his stance clear. The wife was fuming. She stormed out, slamming the door hard, leaving the general all alone to think about his son. His kid, who he thought was long dead, was actually living his best life in the city. Honestly, the father was just happy the boy was safe. Meanwhile, in the Free City market, right inside Flame Boutique, buried under a pile of basic expensive suits, our boy scored a fit like no other. The mage was hyped, saying it looked fire on him. Tae-joo was seriously digging this sick coat made out of magical beast leather. It was light, had solid defense, and built-in temperature control. Plus, the color was perfect. Best part, the mage hooked him up with all those extra pockets he asked for. The lady thought the pocket request was weird until she saw the truth, realizing Tae-joo was packing serious heat. She asked if he was a hunter. Tae-joo tried to drop 3.4 billion won for the coat, but she said it was on the house to say thanks. Our hero felt bad, thinking she was in a tight spot since the gift was supposed to go to some other customer. But the mage promised she had already squared things with the other guy. Tian-yu took a second to process that. Mind made up, he decided to go on a shopping spree. He wanted to boost her business and grab a bunch of gifts for the orphans. The mage was down with that and told him to hang tight while she boxed it all up. Honestly, it was a nice change of pace dealing with a cool guy instead of some annoying, entitled awakener. Right then, a new face walked in. This mysterious dude rushed over to our hero, claiming he had been hunting him down. He leaned in close and introduced himself as Jo Hoon-suk, the big boss at UJ Pharmacy. Tian-yu immediately smelled trouble. The CEO quickly picked up on the fact that his surprise visit was rubbing the kid the wrong way. The kid didn't hide it and asked the suit how the hell he even tracked him down here. Hoon-suk bragged that the Pharmacy Association knows everything that happens in the Free City. Then he stopped playing games and cut to the chase. Jo Hoon-suk demanded the hero hand over the mosquito antidote. Tian-yu definitely felt a threat in the air. The boss claimed he was just asking a favor, but our hero shut him down fast. Hoon-suk even offered to handle all the legal drama to break his contract with Bae Kang-pyo. But Tian-yu wasn't a flake. When the suit offered 5 billion won for the formula, our boy told him that price was a joke. The CEO was officially losing his cool. He warned the kid that making him an enemy would make life in the city a nightmare, but the martial artist just brushed him off. Just then, the lady walked back out, thinking a real customer had finally shown up. Tian-yu just laughed it off, calling the guy a beggar he had just tossed out. Outside, Jo Hoon-suk swore he would make the kid pay. He whipped out his phone and told his crew to start the usual operation immediately. Later that day, Near the edge of the city where our hero's mansion was being built, he showed up loaded down with bags. When he finally made it, the old owner was shocked to see him carrying so much gear. Tae-joo explained he bought fresh clothes for the orphans to show some love to their director. Right then, the old man started tearing up. He was so touched by the hero's heart that he promised to change his ways for good. Tae-joo was happy to see that. He was also grateful to Hong Pyo since the mansion construction was going perfectly thanks to him. When Tae-joo said he was ready to accept the deal, the old man asked him if he was 100% sure. Tae-joo said his mind was set after that run-in with Jo Hoon-suk. This ticked off the director, who feared the CEO had hurt the kid. Tae-joo told him it was just a threat, but it reminded him how dirty people play when they think you are weak. Because of that, he decided to follow the old man's advice and start his own pharma company, asking the old boss to stay on the team. Tae-joo then asked the old man to keep up the great work on the mansion until he got back. While waiting for the company to launch, our hero announced he was heading out to cook up some brand new drugs. But deep down, he was low-key salty that absolutely nobody had noticed his expensive new coat yet. The Chaos Form Poison Spirit art was created by the Supreme Poisonous Demon, the baddest warrior in all of Murim. It was a blend of his clan's old-school moves, 5 elements, chi cultivation, and a little flavor from other martial arts. It was broken down into 10 stars, with each level unlocking a powerful new ability for the user. After hitting 10 stars, you needed total enlightenment to unlock the Poison Spirit, the secret key to the ultimate move, 10,000 Torrential Petal Rain. This was the move the Poison Demon used to crush the Heavenly Demon, leader of the demonic cult. Back on Earth, in the Beast Zone, a massive shockwave just ripped through everything. Total chaos broke out between man and beast. Our Poison Master inhaled deep, gripped his blade, and buried it straight into that monster's skull. Boom. Just like that, the Titan falls. Tianyu just scored a massive, total victory. He never thought a Poison Claw Lynx creature would be this freaking huge. Its skin was like armor, so Tianyu's energy and blades barely even scratched the thing. Stuck at the 3rd star, he was basically a low-tier weakling. That is exactly why he is out here chugging monster venom like it is a huge protein shake. He found a huge poison gem and realized grinding levels is a breeze when you have a legendary master's memories in your head. Since he has got all that ancient wisdom on tap, leveling up should be a cakewalk. Early on, his body could not even handle a single drop of the toxic stuff. But now that he is stabilized, he is finally ready to blast past that 3rd star rank. He started daydreaming about that sweet spore deer venom before snapping back to the real world. First things first, he had to recover those insanely expensive throwing knives. That spore poison water deer was actually a chill beast that left humans alone. It looked just like a camel with those 2 weird humps. In a total blur, Tianyu sliced its head off without a single second thought. The scary part? Those humps turned into ticking time bombs that exploded the second it died. Just like that, a cloud of invisible toxic spores filled the air. Suddenly, our guy is trapped in a swarm of toxic bubbles. This stuff melts gas masks for breakfast and takes 60 minutes before it finally clears out. After checking things out, he decided to suck up all that poison right now since it was the strongest junk he had ever seen. Then it was game on. Tianyu started absorbing the toxic energy. He locked in and focused. The goal was to harness every single drop of that poison. That is the only way to swallow it down. If our hero actually pulls this off, he is finally going to hit that next star rank for a massive level up. Later that day, after hours of moving his internal energy, he worried he had bitten off more deer poison than he could chew, especially since it took forever to turn it into power. Earth has a way better selection of toxins than the old world, so he is definitely on the fast track to power. He refused to be a pathetic weakling anymore. Honestly, he was just done bowing down to anyone else ever again. After a brutal grind of hard labor, Tae-joo Kim finally hit that 4th star. With that finished, he finally stood back up. The mountain trip took way longer than he thought. He got stronger, though, and even cooked up an antidote for that deer poison. So, Tae-joo headed back home. Worried about the YJ pharmacy, he did not have time to mess around anymore. That night, back at the old man's drugstore, our hero finally dropped his heavy pack. Tae-joo went to find the old man. Since the store shelves were wiped clean, he figured that business was absolutely booming. Bike told him he had been worried sick since he had been totally off the grid for 15 straight days. The receptionist was relieved to see him too. Tae-joo apologized, saying he was busy grinding and researching, then asked about the serious problem at hand. Turns out a bunch of drug companies yanked their products off the shelves and were refusing to send any more. To make things worse, the committee's drug department was demanding the full ingredient list for his antidote to check for potential side effects. Tae-joo knew right away that Jo Hoon-suk was the one pulling the strings. The owner said this was the CEO's favorite move and revealed that the guy was basically the big boss of the committee. Plus, if they did not hand over the secret ingredients, their product would be banned from the market completely. Thinking it over, Tae-joo realized the enemy definitely had more dirty tricks up their sleeve. Those scumbags were acting exactly like he predicted, so he decided it was time to catch them off guard. Tae-joo told Hong Pyo they should double down against the committee's threat, but the owner did not really get what he meant. He suggested they stop selling the product entirely since there were rumors about nasty side effects for the customers. That night at the orphanage, the air was full of smoke and the smell of meat cooking. The whole orphanage and their guest of honor were having a massive barbecue. After the very first bite, Tae-joo was absolutely blown away. The meat he just tasted was straight up heavenly. Turns out that spotted poison water deer was supposedly the best-tasting meat in the entire empire. Tae-joo realized the rumors were legit. The emperor was totally hoovering up every single poisoned deer carcass he could find to purify them. Honestly, whipping up that antidote was the smartest move he ever pulled. Total game changer for our guy. Originally, he just wanted to keep the locals safe from poisoned deer during some monster wave, but the stakes just hit a whole new level. This meat was straight up addictive. It was so good, our boy started thinking about launching his very own deer jerky empire. He could already see it, the legendary Grandmaster Emperor, sword in one hand, deer meat in the other, becoming his biggest fan. Right then, suddenly, Hong Pyo stepped up to give a quick shout-out, thanking Tae-joo for providing such an epic, mouth-watering feast for the crew. He gave him props for the antidote, but the guy was still really sweating bullets about the pharmacy being shut down for so long. But Tae-joo just shrugged and said it was for the best. Time would tell who would actually be hurting the most now that the antidote was officially off the shelves. It was just another day, but Jin-soo was fuming. The shop had been closed for 5 days, and his stash of antidote was almost dry. People started gossiping that the antidote was toxic garbage, claiming some nasty side effects were what actually forced the old man to close up shop. Hearing that crap, the beta tester was losing his mind hearing those two trash talking for no reason. He tried to jump in, but someone cut him off quick. Lee Yun-shung was there to play cop. The vigilante captain's arrival drew a crowd, with everyone whispering that YJ Pharmacy was secretly in bed with the committee. The captain told the crowd to beat it, then explained the committee officially banned the antidote until they could verify the formula wasn't dangerous. Right there, suddenly, the beta tester started losing it, yelling that there were no side effects and that everyone would be back in those lame bug suits soon. As the crowd started getting louder and rowdier, the vigilante captain just stood there with a smug little smirk on his face. It ticked him off that some low-level nobody actually had the guts to talk back to him like that in public. He decided it wasn't worth the blood on his blade. Instead, he just brooded over how annoying the administrative officer was for making him play babysitter. So, as the crowd bailed, the one guy who actually gave a damn decided to stay put and hold his ground. The captain asked if he actually had the muscle to back up that big mouth. Safe to say, Jin-soo turned tail and bolted. The captain didn't give a rip about the meds. He was really just itching to catch Jo Hoon-suk for playing the committee like a fiddle. Meanwhile, watching the chaos through his phone, Jo Hoon-suk told the admin officer how much he loved seeing the vigilante captain forced to do their dirty work. The admin officer bragged that thanks to him and the chairman, they were untouchable now. That third committee member would always be outvoted. Since Lee Yun-shik only intervenes for massive crises, the CEO confirmed Phase 2 was already a go. He promised the officer a massive payday, claiming the enemy was toast unless they pulled some miracle cash out of thin air. Elsewhere, over in Lieutenant General O's office, a deal was brewing. Tae-joo offered 1 million bottles to the Monster Defense Squad at full market price. The Lieutenant General stopped and stared, pointing out that the price tag was looking pretty steep for the military budget. Tae-joo started sweating it, worried he might have ticked off the big boss by asking for full price from the army. But surprisingly, the officer nearby whispered that the commander actually looked pretty stoked about the whole arrangement. When the Lieutenant General said the price was actually a bargain, our boy was left standing there looking totally and utterly confused. Once they confirmed the cash was all there, the commander ordered half the cash be paid up front as a deposit. But wait, Tien has had one more secret project to show off. Tien He was dreaming of his own company and had just cooked up something totally new for the market. The kid unwrapped the package and told the commander to give it a taste. The master was totally confused. He definitely didn't expect a gourmet meal cooked just for him. The general admitted he'd been skipping meat lately, trying to stay healthy and keep his fitness in check. Tien He insisted he share it with the emperor. Since this was that special spore-poisoned water deer meat, things were about to get interesting. The other officer in the room was floored. Everyone knew this specific meat had a legendary texture like nothing else on Earth. Our hero just nodded slowly. Impressed by the kid's insane skills, the commander offered him a spot back in the army. Those simple words were all it took to flip our hero's killer switch. Mount Jiri's Magical Beast Defense Corps is basically the Empire's elite squad of monster slayers. Their whole job is crushing beast waves and keeping numbers down. So, when the boss arrived, things got real. The commander felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. But hey, he finally spotted a loophole to save his own skin. The general was obsessed. He could only think about that sweet water deer cure. Just then, his lackey reported that the payment to our hero went through and every order was being handled like clockwork. The boss knew Tae-joo would come crawling back thanks to Jo Hun-seok. Plus, he just heard about a water deer hunt set for tomorrow. With that, the master told his man to shadow the drug maker and jump in if things got messy. The general hyped up his right-hand man for being a total beast. No connections, no problem, this guy always delivered. He felt hyped that his big boss finally noticed his grind. Right then, the commander let out a roar and slapped a hand on his subordinate's shoulder. The general actually started tearing up, begging his man to climb the ranks together until they reached the emperor himself. And just like that, the two of them started fanboying over our protagonist's name. Meanwhile, at the fresh Kim estate, the owner was bragging about how smooth it was to launch his new company. The old-timer offered to crush all the boring paperwork as soon as our hero picked a cool brand name. Tae-joo was totally stoked. He successfully signed that military contract and was getting some serious backup from the lieutenant general. The commander actually really knew what he was doing. He blasted the news that he had an exclusive deal with our main man. Baek Hongpyo broke it down. He used 25 billion from the military's down payment to wipe out their debt, but he also ditched that bank for good because of all the trash they put him through. Tae-joo said that was a boss move and told him to dump the rest of the cash into the orphanage. He realized flying solo in business would be a nightmare, so he straight up said he needed a partner he could trust. Without skipping a beat, he offered the old pharmacist a seat at the table as the company's co-owner. The director wasn't sure he could handle it. Going from a tiny pharmacy to a massive empire is a huge jump. But our hero wasn't having it. Tae-joo was a genius with drugs, but a total noob at business. He needed someone with a brain for the industry. Hongpyo was shocked that his savior trusted him that much. In the end, he couldn't say no. The old man tried to settle for 10% of the profits, but the hero shut that down. Since his partner was doing all the heavy lifting, he insisted the man take at least 30% of the shares. In the end, Hongpyo finally folded, but admitted he wasn't the man for the job. He had someone much sharper and more fit in mind. He was talking about Baek So-yeon, that girl our hero met back in the bunker of the orphanage. He claimed she was his brightest kid and would call her immediately. See, Hongpyo had been running that place for over 20 years, which meant he had heavy-hitting connections in every corner of society. The man was low-key powerful. Because of that, the hero knew making him co-owner was the smartest play he had made yet. Tae-joo suggested mashing their names together for the company brand and settled on Taehong Bio. Suddenly, the old man mentioned he had reached out to his oldest kids who turned into awakeners. Our hero was totally lost. The old man warned him the CEO of Yaji Pharmacy was a snake, so Tae-joo definitely needed some muscle for protection. The kid laughed it off. He told the bodyguards to stay back and just guard the house instead. This stunned the old man. It really looked like his partner was hiding a secret weapon. Still, it seemed like the hero, having no visible marks, wasn't a top-tier awakener. He was likely just leaning on his old soldier instincts. The hero caught that look. Since his worry was being read as doubt, Hong Pyo quickly swore that this wasn't the case at all. That settled it. The hero decided it was time to show, not just tell. He told the orphanage director to round up every single bodyguard right now. Tae-joo really wanted to flex his power and test the antidote against deer poison. The best way to do that? Taking the crew on a hunt. Later that afternoon, at the magical beast border zone, the squad started moving deep into the woods. Some of the orphans were drooling over the drug maker's expensive coat and high-end tactical gear. But they still thought he was a glass cannon. Finally, one of them reached out and tapped the new boss on the shoulder. Baek Chang-hoon, 25 and ranked, took point as they hit beast territory to make sure he kept his neck in one piece. Tae-joo told him to just call him Hyeongnam, the go-to respect for guys older than you. Then the swordsman got preachy, explaining that despite the heavy stats, the coat was just baggage. He claimed his user rank made him the better fighter, but immediately backed down and apologized for speaking out of turn. Tae-joo played it cool, saying he got the worry since he is unmarked. But he said to zip it until they dealt with the actual problem, which totally confused the swordsman. Then he saw them, a sea of eyes opening overhead. The guys started shaking as soon as those storm martins appeared. Boom! The beasts jumped them. The bodyguards hunkered down and got ready for one hell of a scrap. Chang-hoon didn't think the monsters would show up this early on. Time for the chemist to shine. He reached into his pockets and pulled out a handful of nails and some golf balls. Our hero locked in and sprayed the whole lot. He called this little trick his dagger burst. His bodyguard was floored. One storm martin is a joke, but a whole swarm? That is usually a death sentence. But something insane was happening to these things that would normally have a ranked user shaking in their boots. They were literally getting deleted. Best part? The corporate guy didn't even break a sweat. The hero was mostly just annoyed. According to him, these things were so weak they died before he could even get his actual blades out. Tae-joo couldn't exactly go around hurting the previous owner's kids. Right? To end this fast, he used some hidden gear called rain blossom needles and a few heavy iron pellets. Only downside? He couldn't get those weapons back, which meant his bank account was about to take a massive hit today. Tae-joo was desperate for the 7th star so he could finally unlock the retrieval skill. The young swordsman walked up and asked if he was one of those hidden masters who masks their power. Tae-joo told him he wasn't even an awakener and took point. Chang-hoon tried to argue about his job as a bodyguard, but as Tae-joo easily pushed forward, the kid really started wondering who this guy actually was. Later on, they hit the tall grass and found their mark. One nasty water deer. Chang-hoon started tripping and asked for a plan. Tae-joo just noted how the deer thinks its poison makes it invincible. He told everyone to pop the pills so the hunt could finally begin. The orphans weren't sold on it. This stuff was still in beta testing. Then again, they had to support their dad and had seen how cracked the drug maker's genius really was. So, they decided to bet everything on him instead. Chang-hoon dove in, telling his crew to keep the mana gun ready in case the deer bolted. Then, he drew his sword. He went full tilt at the beast. Upon spotting the danger, the water deer started to scream. The noise was so brutal the other awakeners could barely stand their ground against the sonic blast. But the swordsman dodged the worst of it by leaping up. From the air, he dropped a bisection slash. Off with its head. The orphan stayed back, knowing the poison spores were about to blow. Right on schedule, the bubble on the deer's back popped, releasing a cloud of deadly spores into the air. Tae-joo, who was sweating it at first, was hyped with the results. The antidote worked, the kid with no talent actually looked like a pro, and the orphans were pumped the poison didn't kill them. Chang-hoon was just glad the medicine actually worked. Our hero confirmed it. Point proven. Without that poison, that water deer is basically just a target. Some orphans felt bad for doubting him while others claimed they knew he was the goat all along. Hunt's back on. He told his guys to grab the meat. Once the antidote goes public, these deer are going to be hunted to extinction. Meanwhile, in Seoul, at the MG headquarters in former Manchuria, things were hectic as ever. That's when some guy walked up to manager Beck. 30-year-old Se-yeon, the youngest manager in planning, gave the guy a polite look. She flashed a smile at the deputy head. The guy, Joan Ju-hyuk, got right to it and asked if she was really just an orphan raised by Hong Pak. She said yes. Her dad's name coming up caught her off guard. The deputy head was thrilled and told her to drop all her current work, leaving the young manager totally stunned. Joan Ju-hyuk wanted her to head back home for a favor, but she couldn't wrap her head around what he was actually asking for. That's when the boss pointed out that Taehong Bio, the company everyone's talking about, was currently blowing up all over the news. Confused by his weird vibe, she mentioned she'd heard about this company making a cure for that deadly water deer poison. Little did she know, her own father was actually the co-owner of this rising startup. The deputy head, following orders from some shady high-ups, wanted her to infiltrate her father's life and steal the secret formula for that antidote. If she pulled it off, he promised her a massive payday. Seong was fuming. They wanted her to backstab the orphanage director? Before she could snap back, her phone started vibrating in her pocket. It was her dad. She stepped away for a quick second to answer, and Hong Bio started catching up with his daughter. The boss stood there like a vulture, waiting for her to hang up. Finally, she said her goodbyes with a fake little smile. He demanded her final answer right then. Seong told him she was definitely heading back to her hometown. The balding old man was grinning at first, thinking he'd won. Then, she snatched her badge and chucked it right at his face. The youngest manager in the building was done. She was sick of this tiny, power-tripping deputy head trying to walk all over everyone like he owned the place. She marched out of there, throwing a middle finger back at her boss while he screamed his head off in rage. Later that night, the orphans were grinding away inside our protagonist's brand new headquarters. Tae-joo gave them a thumbs up for the hard work. Then, he told them to head back to the orphanage while he finished the rest. Chun-hun looked worried. He argued that his father's orders were clear, they had to protect the drug creator 24/7. But Tae-joo proved he could handle himself. He told the guards to get back to the orphanage and focus on protecting the kids instead. Honestly, Tae-joo doubted anyone would be dumb enough to attack an orphanage. The public backlash alone would ruin them in a heartbeat. Then again, there are plenty of lunatics out there in the world, and this free city seemed to be crawling with them. That's why Tae-joo needed real, loyal allies like the orphans. Now that the business was set and he had the staff to process the ingredients, Tae-joo was finally free to cook up some new drugs. He started this just for the cash, but things were getting way more serious. Don't get it twisted, he loved the money. Without that sweet income, he'd never be able to afford a luxury penthouse like this. It felt strange, finally stepping into his own place for the very first time. He hung up his coat, thinking back. He'd almost died in Peishu, barely clawing his way back to life after that hit was put on him. After that weird soul link with his martial arts double from another world, he survived as a porter in the city before finally brewing his first miracle cure. But the best part was the solid people he'd met. Man, Tae-joo had been through a lifetime of drama in just a few weeks. To him, the free city was just square one on his journey toward becoming truly independent. Deep into the night, some low-level syndicate thug named Ma Sang-shik crept onto our hero's land with his goon. He was salty. This new kid had only been around for a minute and already owned his own building. The goon muttered that it was all because of that mosquito cure, plus everyone's hyped for the upcoming water deer antidote. The boss snapped at him to shut up and stop stating the obvious. Sang-shik was itching to just snatch Tae-joo and beat the formula out of him, but the CEO of UJ Pharmacy gave strict orders. He had to play by Jo Hun-suk's rules for now. After picking the lock for a few minutes, the two thugs finally managed to slip inside the house. The boss told his man to skip the talk. Just stick him with the drug so they could drag his body out of there without a fight. With that, They eased the door open. Syringe in hand, they crept toward the bed. Once they were close enough, the thug lunged to make his move. But right as the needle was about to sink in, his wrist was caught in a grip like iron. Tae-joo had been wide awake the whole time. He admitted he almost let them inject him just to see what would happen. The boss yelled at his man to stop messing around. But when he realized his guy literally couldn't move his hand, the syndicate boss just stood there, completely floored. Tae-joo started moving, mocking them by saying he'd seen them coming from a mile away. Before the thug could even blink, his target and his needle were just gone. Tae-joo always had a thing against painful little shots. Right then, the criminals realized their target wasn't some weak mana reject after all. Smirking, the hero asked those thugs if the dope hits the same when you drink it. This level of trash talk pushed the boss over the edge. But then, the script flipped completely. Their mark actually chugged the poison. Tae-joo vibed with the high and asked the guys for a refill. Everyone knew a massive cartel was pushing weight in the Free City, and it was obvious that some committee member was bankrolling the whole operation. The product they were selling, which was basically liquid death, was now in our guy's hands. He had never seen a poison like this before. Since he hit 4-star rank, he could handle the poison easily. He started thinking about how his master used to experiment with every drug imaginable back then. So, Tae-joo decided to go full junkie just like the old man did. To power up his poison essence, he literally drained the chemicals right out of the thug's body. Watching this made the mob boss lose his mind. Tae-joo stepped up and demanded to know who was calling the shots. But the guy kept his mouth shut, terrified of his boss. So our hero got to work, making screams echo through the night. By the time morning rolled around, the vigilante captain was staring out the window, lost in his own thoughts. Kim Tae-joo, the guy behind that miracle drug, had just reported a major crime. His officer confirmed that gangsters broke into his place to kidnap him. Now that the mastermind was exposed, they needed backup. The master knew instantly that the UJ Pharmacy CEO was the snake behind this and started cursing his failed plan. The easiest fix would be dragging him in, but dealing with a CEO like that was going to be a nightmare. He knew this case was a total mess. His squad was going to have a rough time trying to investigate this mess. Because of that, the captain figured there was really only one way to handle this situation. Meanwhile, back at the hero's place, the two owners were staring down their prisoners like absolute bosses. The syndicate boss looked like his brain had completely melted. Right then, a new group of players showed up. The vigilantes finally hit the scene. Hong Pyo tried to welcome the master's crew with open arms, but they just blew right past him. The master loomed over the gangster. While one guard kept the old man back, the captain slowly pulled out his razor-sharp blade. He flexed his authority and decided to end the villain boss right then and there. Total execution style. Just then, something flew at him. The man quickly parried the incoming throwing knife with his blade. Tae-joo snapped, asking why the captain was so eager to kill the only witness. He played a video of the boss confessing that the UJ Pharmacy CEO ordered the kidnapping to get the hero hooked on drugs. It was total chaos. Looking at the captain's face, Tae-joo could tell the man already knew every dirty detail of the plan. When asked for a name, the kid claimed he was Tae-joo. The captain realized he was the drug developer. He tried to keep his cool. The master awakener took a closer look at the kid in front of him and realized he looked suspiciously familiar. It finally clicked. He was looking at the exact same porter from that job a while back. Tae-joo stayed quiet for a second. When asked if he really made the mosquito antidote, our hero just nodded. The swordsman laughed it off like it was nothing. Then, he let out a really smug, annoying grin. The captain made it clear that in the Free City, he was the only law. He gave our guy one chance to finish this by killing the thugs, but Tae-joo wasn't having any of it. The master dared the mana reject to try and stop him. Tae-joo had zero time to think, only react. He whipped out his knives and launched them at the captain. The guy definitely felt the heat from those projectiles. He let out a storm of slashes to block the attack. Now he knew the drug guy had captured these criminals entirely alone. He had to admit, the kid was skilled. He actually managed to land a scratch on him. Since he stopped the execution twice, the committee member sentenced Tae-joo to death. But the hero didn't give a single damn. As our hero kept talking trash, he spotted something that caught his eye. He leapt into the air to dodge the blade and fired his knives back. Tae-joo was charging up one hell of an attack. His opponent was doing the exact same thing. Then, the fight got cut short by a helicopter appearing overhead. Guys in jumpsuits started bailing out of the chopper. The lieutenant general arrived with a bang to stop that annoying vigilante captain. After diving out of the helicopter and sticking the landing on the pavement, the commander shut the whole fight down. Now that the military was here, everyone was on edge. The general greeted his old buddy. Yoon-hak snapped, asking why the military was crashing his free city. The commander barked that he didn't need a hall pass to visit Gear. The captain yelled back about them meddling. The heavy hitter made it clear he wasn't there, representing the military today. Oh Jin-hyuk claimed he was just a regular guy now. So, he told the other master to stay out of his lane. That definitely ticked him off. Then the civilian bolted to check on his buddy, who promised he was totally fine and not hurt at all. But his crew still demanded some payback. Major General Gu Jun-young vowed to wreck anyone who messed with the guy who literally saved them with that antidote. Another pro named Park Pil-sung offered to let some of his own boys act as bodyguards for him. The third major, Hong Jun-tae, offered to snag some meds. Seeing the crowd, the captain figured Tae-joo was tight with these military thugs because of his old man's high rank. He swallowed his pride to bail. Oh Jin-hyuk told him to hang out, but Lee snapped that he had a life. But the soldier just laughed. The guy didn't look busy at all. The general called the captain out for being trash at his job, since punks were still running wild in his streets. When offered some help, he shut it down. So the captain tried to dip with his prisoners. Then Oh Jin-hyuk said he was keeping the thugs. The committee guy called it a military takeover. Challenged on it, the general said he had to punish the rats who tried to jump his friend. Yoon-hak tried to quote some imperial law, so his rival switched up the vibe. Oh Jin-hyuk reminded him that while they were both masters, they weren't in the same league. The captain started sweating. Jin-hyuk made it icy clear the emperor wouldn't blink if he ended the captain's life right then and there. As the shaking captain whined about rules, the other masters laughed, just waiting for the green light to break his face into pieces. Right then, Yoon-hak knew he was in deep, deep trouble. Seeing his squad shaking, he knew he had no play. He decided it was time to make a quiet exit. Oh Jin-hyung noted the captain was soft from too much city living. Then the hero thanked his savior. The lieutenant general was down to do anything for a real ally. Turns out they hauled over the second Hongpyo called. And just like that, they dodged a total disaster. Thanks to the general stepping in, the protagonist and his business partner walked away without a single scratch. Plus, they kept the witnesses. Oh Jin-hyung said he was taking the punks to find the big boss behind it all. But Tae-joo tried to say this was his problem alone. The soldier disagreed. If the enemy messed with the antidote supply, the whole military was going to be in trouble. He even promised the drug creator didn't have to deal with that annoying captain anymore. Tae-joo realized his level 4 poison was still too weak to take down a real master rank. The guy didn't feel a thing. Without the general's help, victory would have been a total long shot for him. Because of that, Tae-joo needed more power to never feel this helpless again. Meanwhile, the vigilante captain was busy dreaming about how he wanted the hero dead. That's when he noticed the scratch from the hero's knives. He started worrying they were tipped with poison. Suddenly, a sharp pain hit him. The toxic stuff was starting to spread. He realized he was screwed. His subordinate saw right away that something was off. He ordered a trip to the hospital right now. The driver slammed on the gas and took off. Just like that, a master had been crippled. Up in the air, the military crew watched the prisoners. Scared for his life, the syndicate boss promised to spill every secret. But the general said he didn't need a word. He looked at his man. The soldier grabbed the handle and slid the chopper door wide open. The criminals were terrified as the order came down to toss them out. And just like that, the 4 criminals hit the ground hard. Mission finally accomplished. Jun-tae got the green light to end the Yojay Pharmacy CEO. To keep things safe, the commander even deployed a squad to guard our hero's business from any more trouble. Oh Jin-hyung finally found a way to slide into Kim Tae-joo's inner circle. Over at the station, Si-young picked up a call from Chang-hoon. She let her brother know she just touched down in the city. She was floored to find out their dad's partner dropped billions of won to keep that orphanage running. When she heard he finished the second antidote too, Si-young was totally losing her mind. Turns out Tae-joo isn't a fake scammer after all. With her jaw on the floor, she hung up and hopped in a cab. She told the driver to head home. She knew right then that coming back to this city was the best move ever. Back at the orphanage, the kids were wilding out like usual. Hong Pyo beamed when he saw one of his favorites finally walk through the door. She said she bolted back the second her dad called. Hong Pyo gave a quick thanks and told her to follow him inside. Si-young wondered if they were partying and couldn't help asking what smelled so good in that giant pot. The old man said it was spore-poisoned water deer. Hearing that, her brain basically short-circuited again. So her brother wasn't lying about that antidote. Her dad nodded, confirming the whole crazy story. Hong Pyo suggested meeting the business partner waiting for her. Meanwhile, our hero stayed busy by slinging plates of food to all the orphans. Time for introductions. The old man stepped up, and Tae-joo gave Se-young a big, welcoming smile. But wait, they'd met before. She apologized for being a total jerk earlier and said she's actually hyped to join the team. Our main man felt a lot better after she promised to go all out and make Tae-joo the best company ever. But she wasn't the only one looking for a job. Someone else walked up, making our hero turn around in total confusion. It was Major Do Min-soo. He was tasked with guarding the place alongside 19 of his toughest soldiers. Tae-joo appreciated the backup, but he wasn't sure if he even had enough room to house 20 full-grown soldiers. The Major promised they'd handle themselves just fine. And just like that, Tae-joo was back in business with the military again. When they invited the Major to eat, he was secretly drooling over the thought of that water deer meat. He told his soldiers to set up camp and get some food. Tae-joo wasn't a lone wolf anymore, he finally had a real crew behind him. Meanwhile, back at the Free City Castle, inside the meeting room, they were dragging the Yojay Pharmacy CEO for all his past crimes. When the heat turned up, the guy had no choice but to fold and plead guilty to everything. Besides being dead broke, Jo Hun-suk was now a total social outcast. His enemy was breathing and his hired killer was ghosting him. Things were going south faster than he ever imagined. He was running out of moves. Jo Hun-suk planned to vanish into thin air until the heat finally died down. But as he tried to escape, a red light flashed and a motorcycle zoomed up right behind him. He turned to see who was there, but only found cold metal smashing through his window. Then, everything turned bright red. Blood stained the seats. Job done, the assassin turned his bike around and headed straight back to base. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the vigilante captain was barely holding on for dear life. Just then, his right-hand man rushed in with the goods, a top-shelf elixir from the Mirenet Company. The master wanted it now. He snatched the glowing sphere and swallowed it without wasting a single second. Boom. The poison cleared right out of his veins. He didn't expect anything less from such expensive stuff. But then, something deep inside him just snapped. Back in pain, he started screaming curses at Kim Tae-bro again. With the business booming, Tae-joo knew he needed more supply. He headed deep into the mountains to hunt down a giant moon bear's gallbladder for the drugs. Besides the meds, he had to chug new poisons to level up his martial arts skills. After knocking back a ton of deer poison, the guy who just hit 4 stars was already closing in on 5. That's exactly when he spotted something totally weird in the wild. Our hero found a poison sap tree that leaks toxic sludge to scare off bugs. Surprisingly, that deadly goo tasted pretty sweet. Then, Tai-Ufo ran into a blue fire-bellied toad packed with poisonous guts. Since it worked like high-grade anesthesia, he kept it for research. Moments later, he bumped into a massive whitewood centipede. The monster was literally as big as a snake. It carried enough venom to drop an orc in one bite. But to our martial artist, that lethal poison actually felt pretty refreshing. Right then, he saw something weird in the distance. Some kind of white symbol was lurking deep in the bushes. Boom, the beast shows up. We finally found the giant moon bear, and it is screaming like a total psycho. Didn't expect it this early, but let us see what it has got. Our guy whips out his flying daggers. He hurls them all at once, but the beast just swats them away like flies. Its speed is insane. The bear goes full beast mode. Tae-joo slides behind it and hits it with a nasty counterattack. Looks like he scored a direct hit at first. But the giant moon bear just flexes its back and spits those knives out like trash. Tae-joo drops a blood seal poison palm on it, but the beast does not even care. It just keeps coming. Those claws shred through wood like it is paper. Time for our hero to pull out another dirty trick. But seriously, none of his moves are doing anything. This thing is way tougher than he thought. Taking it down at only the 4th star is basically impossible. Time for plan B. Tae-joo needs a power-up right now. He grabs a blue fire-bellied toad and just chows down on it. Down goes the centipede next. Venom is pumping through his veins, and he just has to turn it into poison essence. Done and done. Just like work. Our toxic martial artist finally hits the 5th star level. Game on now. Tae-joo wants to play with a new toy from the Poison Clan stash, the blood butterflies. The metal bugs swarm the bear in a flash. You can only pull off this move at the 5th star. It lets you steer your weapons mid-air like a pro. He snipes the bear right in the eye and the ear. Boom. Just like that, the fight is over. Tae-joo kills the target and levels up in one go. Now that the job is done, it is time to collect the sweet loot. He reaches deep into the monster's guts to grab the one organ he has been dying to get his hands on. That bear's gallbladder is packed with nasty poison, so he has to coat it in energy to pull it out. So, he does exactly that. Now, with the goods in hand, Kim Tae-joo can finally go cook up a new elixir.